Hello, everybody, and welcome to Geometry Lesson of the Day. All right, today we're going to learn about areas of circles and sectors. Whoop, whoop. So the cool thing about today is we're going to learn two things. We're going to learn / refresh how to find the area of a circle. And then I'm going to teach you how to find the area of this cool little shaded sector thing. It's kind of interesting. We're going to talk a lot about what that means. All right. First of all, everybody remembers, if you have the area of a circle is pi times the radius squared, which is kind of cool. It's kind of a nice little formula. We've used it a lot. So let's say your teacher says to you, hey kid, I want you to find the area of this circle of radius 3. Then all I got to do is go, well, pi times the radius squared, 9 pi. And if it says leave it in terms of pi, that's great. But if it says you need to go ahead and put it in decimal form, then we're going to go to our calculator and go, hey, let's go 9 times pi. 9 times pi. And I've got about approximately 28.274. Now, what if they say find the area of this circle, but they give you something like 17? It's like, well, where's the 17? Well, the 17, of course, is like the diameter. It's going all the way across. So since the diameter is 17, that means the radius is 8.5. So you're going to go, oh, I guess my area is pi r squared. And then you could go figure out what 8.5 squared is, and it seems like it's 72.25 pi. That's a great area. Or, of course, you could stick in times pi and figure out that it's about 226, approximately 226.980, which is great. Now, this is nothing new. You've known this before. So let's say we have a new type of question, and the new type of question is now we need to find the area of a sector. Now you're like, well, what in the world is a sector? All right, well, let's say you have a circle like this, and I say, hey, let's find the area. Let's say it's a radius 4. So first of all, if I say, hey, let's find the circle area of radius 4, say, oh, that's simple. It's just pi r squared, or 16 pi. But if I go, you know what I want? I just want the area of radius 4, the area of this sector. Now, by definition, I'm going to put this over here. By definition, a sector of a circle is just a region of a circle like that. And it's got, I'm just going to call this angle in here x, the central angle x, the small arc AB right there. But this shaded region right here is what we call a sector. Now, on Wednesday, we're going to do spicy things like slice this off and make a cute little triangle in here and find the area of just a sliver. But for now, just the area of the sector. And this sector looks like it's 180 degrees. Well, we don't really need that because you can look at that and say, oh, look, it's a semicircle. So I'm just going to find 16 pi, but divide it by 2. So this one would be 8 pi, or equivalent decimal. But what if I said, hey, I want this guy with a 90 in it with radius 4? Well, again, we would take our circle of radius 4, find its area, which we already know is 16 pi, but then divide it by, what are we going to divide it by? Well, luckily, we know that 90 out of 360, look familiar? Just like our lesson on the circumference on whatever day that was, is a quarter. So I need a quarter of 16 pi, and I've got 4 pi. Now this is great because now I can ask you things like, hey, let's find the area of, this is 120 degrees. Let's find the area of this sector, and this is like 8. The radius is 8. You're like, wow, all right. Well, since my radius is 8, my area of the whole circle is 64 pi. But 120 3/60th, well, that's a third. So I'm going to go 1/3 of 64 pi. And you can call that 64 pi over 3. You can call it 64 thirds of pi. You can even call it 64 divided by 3 times pi. You can even call it 67.021, or of course 21 1/3 pi. 21 1/3 pi. Now, one more. If I give you, well, actually two more, but if I give you a circle like this, let's call it radius. Let's call it radius, radius 2. And I've got this really interesting large sector here that has 260 degrees. This big old guy. Well, I don't really know a nice fraction right offhand, so I'm just going to go, well, I'm pretty sure that's 260 360ths of pi r squared. Now, I got to tell you, up here, if I was to find the area of the sector, I would just go, well, the area of the sector is just whatever x is divided by 360, times pi r squared, because that's the proportion of it. Okay, so you can freeze on that for a second. Look at that. So because of that, that means down here, 260 360ths, and I could even use my calculator if I wanted to, because 260 360ths or 2636 is 0.72, or if you math frac that, you get a cute little 13/18. So it doesn't really matter, because this is, all you're going to do is take that number and multiply it by 4 pi. So 13/18 or decimal if you want to use it. 4 pi times 4 pi is well, let me get rid of the pi for a second, is 2.8 repeating, which again is a nice little fraction of 26/9 pi, which is not as big as 4 pi because it's not the whole thing, right? Or you could have called that 2.89 pi, or you can just call it 9.076. That's pretty decent. And the interesting thing is, you better make sure your answer is smaller than 4 pi. And of course, 4 pi with our calculator is about 12.56. And that looks like it's about 3/4 of it, which is good because that looks like it's about 3/4 of it. But we just got to make sure that we're finding the right proportion. Now, one last thing. If they were to ask you something like a scenario, so this is pretty simple, nice little shaded region, whatever it is. But if they give you a scenario like, hey, I've got a circle of radius 6, I've got a circle like R, and I've got an arc QS that has a measure of like 100 degrees. I would like to find the area of the sector QRS. You're like, well, let me draw a little picture and find out what in the world's going on here. So I got circle R, I've got radius 6, but then it says QS. I don't know where that is. I know R is here, so I'll just make S that. But QS is 100. Well, 100 is like a little bit bigger than 90. So now I know my QS is right here. That's 100 degrees. So I'm just going to go, hey, my area is going to be 100 360ths of pi r squared. So I've got 100, let's do a little math here on this first. 100 360ths of 36 pi. But you notice that 36 and 360 can cancel out, 1 and 10. So I've really got 10 divided by 10. I've got 100 divided by 10 rather. I've got 10 pi, which you could do that in your head. 3.14159, 14159-ish. And that would be the area of that sector. And just make sure, make sure, 36 pi, the entire thing is like 113. And this is a lot smaller than that, which is good. It should be, because the whole circle has an area of 113, so this should be pretty small comparatively, a quarter of it-ish. And that is how to find the area of a sector. Okay, so there's going to be a worksheet posted on Google Classroom. Go ahead and load that up, and or just do it in your notebook. That's fine too. And as long as you use this area of a sector formula right here, we should be all set. And there we go. So thanks very much, and I'll see you next time.